Hey y'all, welcome to the BRW podcast, Black Ribbon Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Lee, and I am a stage 4 metastatic melanoma cancer survivor / warrior. Because if you know anything about melanoma, then you know the only way, we're like the mob. The only way out is death. I know, kind of morbid, but it's all right. Because I want to bring to you the life of it all. How I'm living after all the melanoma stuff. I'm currently in surveillance mode. We are doing scans every 4 months now, so that's awesome because I've been clear. And I was diagnosed in July of 2021, and they found a ping pong ball sized tumor in the back of my head between the brain and the skull. And won't get into all the details. You can catch the podcast where my wife and I talk about our experiences and whatnot with it. But what I want to do today, though, is talk about a vision. Visions I saw, messages from beyond that helped me through this. You're like, what? Yes. When we got diagnosed and everything was starting to build, like our anxiety, our uncertainty, our, you name it. I mean, we were getting anxious. And one morning I woke up and this image in my hand of Jesus with his hand out, and he says, "Why worry?" And from that moment on, it didn't bother me. I wasn't anxious. I was, let's roll with it. Let's go. What we doing? Let's just live. And what's the next step? And that's the way I always looked at it. I've always been one that I don't ask for less burdens. I ask for broader shoulders. And so I was just like, okay, let's go. And it wasn't until the second round of radiation. So I had to do 3 rounds of radiation and then had a few days off and then had to go in for the brain surgery where they cut my skull open, pulled a piece of the actual skull out so they could get in and scrape out all the tumor, what was left of it. So the radiation was fixed and to a certain spot within millimeters of the size. Let me go get the hat, the mask. So this is the radiation mask. We put a foam skull in there just because it's morbid and it kind of fit. But this was on my head and it's clamped in and this screws in. So this went on the back of my head. Then they clamped it on me like that. The radiation shot in here down to get to where the tumor was. You can see the kind of lineup marks. That's what these are. This here and this one here. They had to make this just for my head, but that's these lineup marks were so they could get everything right. Kind of like crosshairs on a scope if you're a hunter or shooter. So that's where the radiation went in, the laser beam that fried basically my brain, and then they had to go in and you know, cut it open, scrape it out and all that. So this lives on the entertainment center by the TV. It sits about like this. So it's kind of morbid, but it's also a big part of where I am and who I am right now. So let's slide him over here for a sec. So when I went in for radiation, the first time was kind of, you know, I was kind of like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I had no idea what it's going to be like. The guy says, hey, we usually play music, anything you want. And I was like, Metallica. Yep, rock on. So I guess it was like a Spotify type deal because it kind of played a Metallica song or two and then played others in that genre. So it was okay. And they got me laid down on this bed, kind of like an MRI machine. You kind of lay down, and then they put the helmet up. They got me all screwed into the helmet. They got me locked in. And he says, don't move. And if I close my eyes and they start the process, and every time you breathe, you feel like you're breathing in and out this way, but you feel like you're moving all over. So the first one went really good. The second one was weird, and this is why. So I go in and I'm nervous. I'm nervous and I don't know why. Like something just is off. I don't know. And you know, what kind of music you want? I was like, Metallica, rock on. And they do the same thing. And as I'm laying there, I feel like I'm shaking. Like I feel like I'm just shaking all over. I'm trying not to. I'm trying super hard to be still. Be still. And I just don't. I'm just all over. And I'm starting to get anxious and nervous. And all the doubt and all this stuff comes in. And, you know, of course, I'm laying there. I'm all strapped in. And my eyes are closed, and I'm focused on trying not to move. And, you know, like I said, all the anxiety's building up. This vision of my grandfather on my mom's side appears beside me, walks over, kneels down beside the table. Kind of odd, because my grandpa at this point he's been gone about 18 years at this point in time. We were never really close. I mean, we were around each other, and you know, I have fond memories, but he was a hard worker. He was a stature of strength for me. Kind of like if you wanted something that made you think of a strong human being, a strong person, this was the guy. He wasn't a big fella, but it was the way he presented himself. You had this strength about you. You had this security, like when you're around him. And I thought it was really odd because he didn't say anything. He just, in my vision, he walked over, knelt down and put his hand up on mine on the bed, the gurney, whatever. Crazy. And once that happened, that peace and that strength and that comfortness overwhelmed me, and I was zip, all good. And my mom had passed away, let's see, this was in 21, so she passed away in 09, so do the math. And she had kind of appeared in the back, kind of behind Grandpa, but kind of walked up close to let me know that she was there, and then stood back in the background like she was watching this. So really crazy, really crazy. And you know, when the radiation was done with that session, you know, I walked out and I was like, what in the heck? Like it was a weird feeling inside, and I was like, man, something weird. It's just off, weird, wacky. Like, what just happened? And I'm a Star Wars guy, so it was kind of like that moment in The Last Jedi where Rey is hearing all the voices and the images from, and seeing the images from the past Jedi who are saying that, she is all the Jedi. It wasn't that, like I'm not the Jedi. But anyway, you kind of get what I'm saying. And I don't know, it was weird and neat at the same time. So on the way home, the wife, we walk out, and I'm driving is non-existent this time, and it's still very limited, a couple years later. But anyway, on the way home, she says, "Well, how was treatment? How was radiation?" I was like, "All right." So I was really anxious and nervous this time, and jittery, and and then I told her about this vision, and she started to tear up, and she looks at me and she goes, "You are not going to die." And I said, no, it wasn't like that. It was like they came, this was the image of strength and comfort and that I needed for that moment. You can call it anything you want, but I was visited. I think I was visited from them, and I don't know. To this day, I was telling a fellow about it the other day, and it's still an awe-inspiring event. So just be aware of that, and if you have instances like this, you ain't crazy. You ain't crazy. You're not the only one. And it's okay to share those. What I'm finding is the more that I share my experience, it helps somebody new feel that kind of comfort and that strength around you, because they know you went through this similar. Even though they might have a different type of cancer, you know what it's like to get the blood test. You know what it's like to fight the insurance. You know what it's like to, to have people disassociate. You know what it's like with all the other side of cancer. And you know what? When they put that needle in your vein and they're pumping them drugs in you, like I had immunotherapy, other people have chemo. Sorry, my brain skipped. It's kind of like a CD. My brain skips, and then it, like if you remember the old compact discs, and you put it in there, and it would scratch, and it would. My brain does that still, but you know what it's like to have the drugs, the immunotherapy, the chemo pumping through your veins. You know what that sound is like. You know what that feels like when it's like, right? You know what it's like to sit in a room with 50 other people, all in cubicles, listening to, yeah. So what I've found, though, some of the people that I've met recently, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of see it in their reactions that when they're feeling nervous or anxious and they know that I've already been through it, they kind of stand a little closer and they're like, hey, and they want to talk about it. Little bits. but it's just that comfort in knowing you're not alone. And you know, I keep noticing that some people don't want to talk about their specific type or specific situation because theirs isn't as bad as what mine was. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how bad it is. You're going through this and you need comfort in knowing that you're not alone. And I think that's what my vision was that comforting to know that I'm not alone, that things are going to work out and it's all going to be great. And I need to share. So thank you for listening to me ramble. Y'all are awesome. And you know what, my mellow homies? Rock on. You've already survived 100% of your worst days. The days that you were like, man, I can't wait till this day is over. You survived all those. You're going to survive this one. Have a great week.